Let's talk about a huge puzzle. How do you find something that's hiding in the biggest, most unexplored place on our entire planet? Well, the answer, believe it or not, might be in a single drop of water, and it is completely changing what we thought we knew about the ocean. But to really get a handle on this, let's start with a thought experiment. Okay, imagine you're standing in the middle of a giant sports arena. Now turn off all the lights. It's pitch black. Your job? Find one single housefly that's buzzing around somewhere in that huge dark space. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's pretty much the perfect metaphor for searching for life in the deep ocean. And the scale we're talking about here is just mind-boggling. This isn't a pond we're looking in. The deep ocean is the single largest habitat on Earth. It makes that sports arena we just talked about look like a shoebox. And almost all of it is completely, utterly dark. So, in this massive, dark arena, what's our housefly? Let's pick a big one, the colossal squid. This is a creature we know for a fact is down there, but trying to find a live one in its own home has been one of the greatest challenges in marine biology. And here's the really wild part. This thing is enormous. We're talking up to 9 meters long. And get this, scientists figure it makes up about 80% of a sperm whale's diet. That means there should be tons of them down there. And yet, it took a full 100 years after we first discovered it to finally get this tiny bit of footage of a young one. And that quote just nails the problem, doesn't it? Our old ways of exploring, with submersibles and cameras and robots, they're just like using your phone's flashlight. You get this tiny little cone of light in a vast, overwhelming darkness. You pretty much have to get unbelievably lucky for something to just happen to swim right in front of you. For decades, this flashlight approach was all we had. It was a brute force mission. You physically go down there and you just hope. You hope you're in the right place at the exact right time. Now, our toolkit did get better, of course. We started with scuba gear for the shallows. Then came the remotely operated vehicles, the ROVs, and these incredibly specialized submersibles for the crushing pressures of the deep sea. We even used massive trawling nets. But every single one of these tools had the same problem. They're super expensive, they can be really invasive, and they can only see a teeny tiny fraction of the ocean at any one time. And if you want the perfect example of just how costly and inefficient this whole approach is, look no further than the decades-long hunt for the colossal squid's famous cousin, the giant squid. I mean, just look at what it took to get one single glimpse. They spent 20 years analyzing sperm whale data just to guess where the squid might be. They had to build special, quiet submersibles so they wouldn't scare it away. And after all that, they did over 100 dives and spent hundreds of hours in the deep, just waiting. And the reward for all that time, all that money, all that incredible effort? A few minutes of footage. That's it. So yeah, these methods can give us these amazing, breathtaking moments. But for actually understanding the big picture of what's down there, they're just profoundly inefficient. But what if we stopped trying to find the fly with a flashlight? What if, instead of looking for the fly itself, we could just test the air in the arena to see if a fly had been there recently? That's the revolutionary idea behind a new kind of tool that is changing everything. It's called environmental DNA, or eDNA for short. Here's how it works. Every living thing, from a tiny bacterium to a giant blue whale, is constantly shedding little bits of itself into the water. We're talking scales, mucus, poop, skin cells, you name it. And all of it carries a unique genetic fingerprint. The entire ocean is basically a giant soup of these genetic clues. And the process itself is honestly surprisingly simple. First, you just collect a sample of water. Then you run that water through a super fine filter to catch all the little bits of genetic stuff floating around. Finally, you take that stuff, you extract the DNA, and you sequence it using computers to match the codes to a huge library of all the species we already know about. So how is this DNA detective work actually being used out in the real world? Well, this new tool has a couple of incredible uses. First, it lets you find a specific animal you're looking for, even if it's an absolute master of hiding. So let's take the angel shark. This is a critically endangered predator that is ridiculously good at camouflaging itself on the seafloor. I mean, they are next to impossible to spot with your own eyes. So in one area, based on what divers were seeing, or really what they weren't seeing, scientists thought the angel shark was locally extinct, gone. But then researchers went and tested the water, and boom, they found these huge spikes in angel shark DNA. So they sent divers back to those exact spots, and what do you know? there they were. And that's the real power of eDNA. Even if the animal isn't there in that exact moment, the DNA it left behind yesterday or even a few days ago is still floating around. It's like a genetic ghost, telling you what was in that spot long after it's moved on. You can just imagine creating a heat map of the ocean to find where a colossal squid might be hanging out. Now, the second major use is maybe even more profound. It lets us map entire ecosystems. Every single night, the largest migration on planet Earth happens in our oceans, when billions of tons of animals swim from the deep up to the surface to feed. By taking eDNA samples at different times and depths, we can finally get a clear picture of who is making that journey and when. But that brings us to the most mind-blowing discovery of them all. What happens when you use this amazing new tool not to find something you already know is there, but to just see what's out there in the deepest, most mysterious parts of our world? So researchers did exactly that. They took water samples from the abyssal plains, these vast, deep, dark plains at the very bottom of the ocean, and they sequenced everything they found. So what do you think they discovered? This is what they found. 90%, 90% of the genetic material they found did not match any known species in any of our scientific databases. Just let that sink in for a second. For every one creature down there that we could identify, there were 9 others that are a complete and total mystery to science. Scientists have this incredible name for all this unknown genetic information, dark taxa. It's basically the biological version of dark matter in space. We know something is there, we can see its signal, but we have absolutely no idea what it is. This right here is the true new frontier. So, let's wrap this up. Our old methods, they were like trying to find one specific needle in a haystack the size of a planet. It was slow, expensive, and you had to get really lucky. What eDNA does is let us scoop up the entire haystack and analyze all of it at once. It can help us find those specific needles we thought we'd lost forever, like the angel shark. But the most important thing it's done is show us that the haystack itself is almost entirely made of things we never, ever knew existed. You know, we started this with a simple problem. How do you find one animal in a huge, dark space? But eDNA has completely flipped the script. The real challenge isn't just finding that one creature anymore. It's coming to terms with the fact that the arena is actually teeming with millions of life forms we can't see, that we've never named, and that we're only just beginning to understand. So the question now is, what else is down there?